Hey everyone, this is Carla R. Jenkins, and welcome to an all new episode of Projectized, the Project Management Show, where today I'm going to discuss an article from scrum.org on why Agile transformations sometimes fail. I feel that this is a very cognizant and important time, especially given the fact that, here's the article, especially given the time that especially given the time that um, we're living in, and a lot of people are doing agile project management, but they aren't really fully understanding what agile is, and also how agile isn't solving every problem just because it's a pandemic. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you thorough overview because I want to give you timely information. So it came from scrum.org, and I am putting the link in the description. So whether you're watching on Projectized, I mean Periscope, YouTube Live, or Instagram Live, you can always check it out. So this author lists about 10 to 13 things. And first of all, they said they need to underline the agile transformation that never ends is always continuous improvement. I think the one thing with traditional project management is there's a beginning and an end. However, with agile is always continuous improvement, and that's something that a lot of people don't think about when they're doing agile. It doesn't just have a beginning and an end. So the first thing is that this Magdalena points out is that indifferent engagement of C-level, vice president, senior directors in the process. So if upper management isn't behind the agile transformation, then it's automatically going to fail because you need buy-in, regardless of whatever project cycle you do, whether or not it's project predictive, which is waterfall, agile, iterative, incremental, or hybrid. You need upper management to get the buy-in. Number two, low focus on value and customers. Um, they talk about how they have not the same value regarding the customer delivery of the product, the productivity of the agile transformation, technology used, and the effectiveness. The third thing is hierarchy and culture. A lot of times, when you're dealing with company culture, it's traditional. So Agile was different. Remember, Agile originated in the information technology sector. And even though we're all using technology right now, most of our organizations were founded, and our processes and our management theories were founded before the creation or the prevalence of an information technology sector. So that can really change and harm agile transformation efforts. Number four, low understanding of empiricism. In complex environments, the only answer is empiricism. This means frequent inspection, adaptation, and transparency, which comes from the Scrum Guide. The concept is crucial to enabling agility in the organization. Then is lack of support from middle management, meaning your first line supervisors. Next is the project oriented organization instead of a product. So you have like three different type of organizational structures. You have the projectized, which is in the middle. The projectized, which is all projects. You have mixed, which is a combination of project, functional, and then at the end, the more traditional one, you have functional. And in this situation, if you're just straight project, then you're not part of continuous improvement because, as I mentioned, there's a start and a finish, a start and a stop. And that's against what agile transformation is because it's always continuous improvement. The next one is low level of transparency and trust. Um, and I feel that comes from, as a certified Scrum Master, you have a dedicated, your Scrum team and your developers is dedicated. And a lot of people believe that it's hidden because they're over there. But in reality, Scrum is done in plain view. However, it's the perception that there's a lack of transparency, which breeds mistrust of agile transformation. Next are vague reasons why they want to implement agile. I think this is very relevant right now with the pandemic because everything is go, go, go. I do think we're at least 6 months in from the lockdown and from seeing that's a pandemic, and it's a lot more processes and things are slowing down. But still, because it's a pandemic, you're in disaster recovery. And so people just say, well, everyone's doing Scrum. We should do Scrum. Maybe your project or your division does not need to transition to Agile. Next are if companies already use Scrum, the framework is usually mechanically implemented and understood. And the author says misunderstandings when it comes to the Scrum framework are often met in companies. There's a strong focus on velocity, story points, perfectly written user stories, outputs delivery instead of delivering valuable, potentially releasable increment and customer satisfaction. So releasable increment is the work that you do at the end of the release. So what she's saying is people care more about the ceremonies than the actual work of it. And she labels it called zombie Scrum, meaning there's no benefits from Scrum and the organization is focused on outputs rather than the outcomes. Next is an organizational structure that makes delivery even more complex. Well, that can happen right now because you have everyone that's spread out. So you don't have co-located, which is a project management term, meaning everyone in one place. Next is war between departments, which have always happened. And she highlights um, business departments and IT internally, business internally. So you do have those war of departments, not just based on theories, but also resources and people. Next, traditional contracts that shape the process, especially if you're working for the federal government, they have fixed price. Some things are time and material, which is more agile, and your contract as the Arthur mentioned, a fixed scope, fixed time, fixed budget. If you are done ahead of schedule, instead of receiving a benefit, you may receive a penalty. Next is limited collaboration with customers and users. Occasionally, companies prevent teams from direct cooperation with customers. They limit engagement, product, and customers' understanding, fast reaction to the market, users' needs by blocking those close collaboration. And that would be great because if you know what your users and your customer wants, you can create better products and make more money. Next is low employees' engagement in changes. Employees' commitment to transformation, their willingness to work in the agile environment is essential. The agile transformation must be performed on all levels in the company. When that level of employee engagement and changes is low, this can ruin all of your efforts towards agility. Usually, the reason is poor understanding of the empiricism needed in the complex environment and implementation of the mechanical Scrum framework. However, it may also be caused by the general culture of the organization, which is true. Next, team self organization is not welcome. And that happens when you have micromanagers, but also people who just put people together. Agile is selecting, your developers, being servant, and you have to self-organize. And that's counterintuitive with a lot of organizations in corporate America. Next is the inability to innovate. Huge technical debt, sporadic releases, lack of continuous integration might be another obstacle in the organization's way towards agility. And then you have low tolerance for experiments and learning. I would say some of that is now, however, with the pandemic and the fact that people had to increase their remote work and work from home and try new things. I don't think the tolerance is as low. Next is impediments are not solved. That's for you, the scrum master. You're supposed to be the servant leader and remove impediments from your team. The author says even if the organization is aware of generally known impediments that are serious obstacles, no one feels responsible for solving them. That's your responsibility as the scrum master. Next is I was hoping you could give me a detailed plan for the agile transformation. The agile adoption process is also empirical. And one of the things behind this is with traditional, which is also predictive and waterfall project management, you have a mapped out plan. But even if you do scaled agile, which is releases, you can't tell me what you'll be doing in release 5 based on release 1 because it can change. Your percent of what's done, the definition of done, can change from sprint to sprint. Next, reports from an agile audit are ignored. This is something new, but I do want to talk about because a lot of the audits can be anything that's agile transformation can be audited. It just doesn't operate in a space without checks and balances. Next, fear of change. People don't like changes. And agile, going from traditional project management, which is predictive or waterfall, to agile, people fear that because they fear losing their job. So even if they dislike their job, they know they have one. So when you change it, they may think that they won't have one when the change comes. And then finally, agile consultants are not heard, scrum masters are not empowered. And the author concludes, in most organizations I have met, scrum masters are perceived as team secretaries, facilitators, scribe, tool admin, etc. In fact, a scrum master provides service for teams, product owners, and the entire organization. This last part is frequently ignored. Agile consultants are sometimes hired to heal the organization, although they're usually in cooperation with scrum masters. Ideas, proposals, experiments are not considered worth trying. What I will say is that comes from people not understanding fully what Scrum is about. Scrum is your developers, your Scrum team, including your developers and your Scrum master, and then the product owner, which serves as the liaison between the Scrum team and the business. So when people don't understand the project, the whole Scrum background and breakdown of people and their teams, they don't really respect or understand what the Scrum Master are about. So this concludes this episode of Projectized, the project management show. I would like to thank everyone for watching. I wanted to do this so you can have formal understanding of what why sometimes agile transformations fail, so that if you are currently in the pandemic and you're dealing with going from uh, predictive or traditional project management to agile, or you're considering it, know the good and the bad and what to look out for. So this concludes this episode of Projectized. My name is Carla R. Jenkins. You can watch Projectized Mondays through Fridays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Periscope, Instagram Live, and YouTube Live. Thanks for watching, and I'll see